So this is going to be a short video about note-taking and studying. There are two main reasons why you should be taking notes in class. The first one, focus your concentration. If you are not actively listening and taking notes, it's easier for your brain to lose interest and start wandering and thinking about different things. You might take out your phone and start scrolling. So basically, it's a way to keep you busy, right? Focused and concentrated on the topic at hand. And obviously, notes are really good to identify the main points of what you need to learn, whether for an assignment or an idea or concept that you'll use later in class. So there's no one way to take notes. These are just some other types of note-taking strategies. The first one is one that I see a lot, especially in high school. I call them the dump notes, where you're just writing down as much as possible without thinking about organization or strategy, and it's just a page full of writing. These are very ineffective, and I do not recommend it. There's also the outline strategy, which is a really good strategy to use when you're studying your notes, but it's not such a great strategy when you're actively listening to a lecture and trying to take notes, because it's harder to tell what information you need to prioritize and what information is a topic or subtopic in the moment, right? Usually those things don't become clear till after the fact. So outlining, good after strategy, but not really in the moment note-taking. The chart method is when you know what the different topics are going to be covered are, or what the main ideas are. And so you create columns where you list those different topics or main ideas, and then you just fill out those columns as you go. And then the Cornell style, the Avid strategy, this is my personal favorite. This is the one that I still actively use whenever I need to take notes. So before we talk about that, I just want to note that every person learns differently, and what works for me might not work for you, and that's totally fine. So what I want to encourage you to do is try the different strategies. If you find one doesn't work for you, switch it up. And also Google. If you don't know how to take notes, Google the different note strategies and see if there's one that really stands out to you that might be best suited to how you learn. Okay, so I got this from UNC Chapel Hill Learning Center. They list some of the pros of digital note-taking and handwritten note-taking. So some digital pros would be, it's a lot faster and easier to take a ton of notes on a computer. They're easier to edit and reorganize later on after the fact, because you can obviously reorder the information. You can back up your notes, you could share your notes. And then a really cool thing about digital notes is you can search them. So if you do Command F or Control F and then type in the words that you're looking for, it'll highlight all the times you use those words. And then they claim that digital note-taking is better for retention of factual information. So like data, dates, anything with numbers, anything like super specific statistics, digital seems to be better for that. So some pros for handwritten notes. It's easier to create diagrams and illustrations. So if you're doing if your professor, your teacher is talking about comparing two different things, you can create a Venn diagram on your sheet of paper a lot faster and easier than you could on a computer. This is seems to be good for visual learners. And it also provides more focus for those of you that are prone to digital distractions. So if you have a computer in front of you and you're trying to take notes, while you end up on Amazon, that actually would be counter to what you're supposed to be doing. So handwritten notes sort of stop that from happening. And it's also better for comprehension and retention of conceptual information. So big ideas, theories, opinions, more like abstract information. So some cons for digital would be, while you're taking notes, it is harder to organize and format in real time because you have to go to different boxes and things like that to change the formatting if you wanted to. And it's easy to sort of like mess up your document and try to pay attention and take notes at the same time. So what typically happens with digital notes is they turn into dump notes where you're just kind of listing a bunch of things because the formatting could be complicated. Information, if it's not properly saved, might cause it to be lost somewhere in your computer, or you just don't have it saved. And if you're in the middle of class and you're not close to an outlet and your computer's about to die, well, that could really hamper your ability to take notes. Or if it dies and it doesn't save, then you could lose your notes. So some cons for handwritten: it is harder to take a lot of notes using just your hand. If you lose it, there is no backup. It's one of a kind. And it is harder to search for specific information. There's no Command F key in your notebook. And then also going too fast can cause sloppy, illegible writing that you can't read and therefore are useless to you, or you can develop hand cramps or carpal tunnel, which are both not recommended. So why I like the Avid Cornell style the best. It's easy to organize and find specific information. So you'll see on the left-hand side, this is where you put all of your main points or your questions or your main topics. And then on this side is where you write notes on those things. So when you're studying, if you're trying to find a specific topic, all you have to do is scan this left-hand side for what you're looking for, and then your notes are right there. It is the fastest way to format notes because all you need to do is draw a line. I always recommend adding a header, right? The day you were in class taking the notes and like the topic. But otherwise, really the only formatting you have to do is to draw a straight line down. And personally, I do tend to recall information better if I'm physically writing it down. You're also going to want to summarize whatever it was you learned in the lecture that day. So when it comes time to study, if your notes are hard to read, you don't understand them, they're sort of like sparse and they don't make any sense, then you need to reevaluate how you take notes. It could mean that you need to add more detail when you're taking notes, or you just need to try a different format. In order to figure out also how well you understand a concept, after you're done taking notes, like right after, still in class, do your best to summarize the main points that were covered in just a few sentences. This helps you understand what you understood from the day. And also, if you have a really hard time doing this, then you know you need to revisit this concept or idea because you didn't understand it, right? So you can make a special note to study that topic more deeply. So I'm going to talk about how we minimize the effects of the forgetting curve by using the spaced learning approach. So the forgetting curve, named by the German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in 1885. And it's basically what it sounds like. It's the amount of time it takes for someone to forget new information. So on average, you will forget 56% of all new information learned after the first hour. After the first 24 hours, that jumps up to 66%. And then after the first 6 days, you lose about 75% of all the information you learned. So how do we prevent the forgetting curve from ruining your school? There's a strategy called spaced learning. So this is how you maximize your new information, retaining that information. Basically, what you're going to want to do is space out your studying over an extended period of time. This is key. An extended period of time. If you're the type of person that is just going to try to cram everything in the last minute, it doesn't work. Science has proven time and time again that this does not work. And they don't have to be these long, drawn out, painful sessions. Actually, that's not advised. They should be sort of shorter review sessions. So here's a spaced learning study schedule example. When you learn something new, it's recommended that you step away from it for just 1 hour and then come back and just review it. So again, after the first hour, go do something else, take a break, get a cup of coffee, whatever, and then come back and just review the main points and then just remind yourself of the things that you learned that day. After that, give yourself about 24 hours before returning to it and then review it again. Then, if time allows, right, take a few days to a week off and then review it again. So this is all about taking breaks in between each session and reviewing that same information over and over and over again. So the trick really is multiple exposures over an extended period of time. That is the best strategy for retaining information. So on here, or on the PowerPoint, I'm going to link to some resources that I thought were helpful when it comes to note-taking and study tips. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.